How you doing, guys? I'm not fishing this morning, but I'm going to give you a little rundown on what's in my tackle box. Somebody asked me recently what I would recommend that they buy for saltwater. They're just starting out in saltwater, or they haven't been in it for a while and they wanted to buy what they needed to get started again. So I'm just going to go through the basic things that I use on the water. So the most basic thing that I'm going to have on the water that I'm going to fish with is some form of swim bait on jig. So I'm always going to carry 3 different sizes of lead heads with me, and as my primary it's going to be an 1/8, 1/4, and 3/8 ounce. An 1/8 I'm using under popping corks primarily, 1/4 tight lining or under a popping cork, and a 3/8 ounce for deep water. If I'm jigging in 3 foot of water, I'll generally use a 1/4 ounce. I'll also carry 1/2 ounce with me because in some cases, in really strong current, in deep water, that 1/2 ounce is what you need. So I'll carry that. I'll say a little bit about the jig heads I use. I always use a jig head that has a gamakatsu hook on it, because these things don't rust, they stay sharp, and they're very strong. A lot of my use have this spring action, or this spring keeper for the swim bait, and I do like that. It'll keep your swim bait on there all day over through a lot of catches. And as far as the eyes go, I can't tell a difference between whether eyes and just a plain head. You know, I can't say that I've seen a difference in either one. So I really don't specifically buy jig heads with eyes on them. And then the swim baits. You know, my primary swim bait brand that I use is Matrix Shad, and they have a really tough swim bait. They got some really good colors. They're of course designed right here in Louisiana, southeast Louisiana, so they've got the colors that work really well here. Through the years, I've fished the tiger bait a lot. Of course, the lemonhead chartreuse is always an old favorite. I always have that on hand. Their green hornet, which is it's a kind of olive green on top with red specks in it and a cream bottom, kind of greenish cream bottom, paddle tail. That's become one of my favorite colors. The magneto in a Matrix Shad, it's a really good color for times when the trout are hitting on finfish. I used to use this shrimp creole color a lot, which is a Matrix Shad. It's basically clear, a little bit red with red, black, and silver specks in it. You know, I'm always going to have some black one in hand. Deadly makes a really good one, and this is an opening night color. This Deadly Blue Moon in the straight tail is one of the first ones that I fish with down here in Louisiana, and that's a really good bait also. Been around for a long time. Of course, I'm always going to have some popping corks in my box. This is a cork on a wire line, but I also have a lot where it's not a flexible wire, it's a solid wire. That's what I have in front of me. These Versa corks always have these clip onto your line. They've got rattles in them. They open up so you can add different weights, but this is really nice. It's just a clip on so that you can go between tight lining and fishing under a cork. I will say that I find that these stay on the line better if you clip it onto the braid part, because I always fish with a main line of braid and then a leader of mono or fluoro, which I tie on with a double uni. But I like to keep this on the braid. It just stays on there a lot better than if I put it on fluoro or mono. And I'm going to have some other stuff. I'm going to have some hard baits, like there's a Rapala X-Rap in an olive green. It's a SXR 8. So I'm going to have some top dog type or she dog type lures, so I can do a walk a dog on the surface. As well, some rattle trap type lures in the box. I'm also going to have on board what I need to do sliding corks, because I really like sliding corks if I'm going to be fishing in deeper water with live bait. And then there's a little pack of yarn that comes along that you apply on your main line for the knot to stop, and it's got some beads in it. And I'm going to also have some various hooks if I'm fishing live bait. I'm either going to have Kale in a 2 or 3/0 size, and again, Gamakatsu hook. That's pretty much all I fish. Also, I'm going to have wide gap, these finesse wide gap in anywhere in sizes 1/0, 2/0, and 3/0. I also use these finesse hooks on the bottom of my Chalmette rig. So I'm definitely always going to have either the equipment for a Chalmette rig, which this is a floating jig head on a Gamakatsu worm hook, and I'm going to have some sliding weights. I like these pencil type that rattle. So I'm actually going to have 1 or 2 Chalmette rigs already tied up in a little bag that I can pull out. Now I'm also going to have baits for redfish. So, you know, my favorite is the gold spoon. Actually this is copper, and copper is also very effective versus gold. So I'm going to have these in 1/4 and 3/ounce sizes. These are the weedless type, like a Johnson silver minnow. For redfish, I'm also always going to have a good heavy-duty spinnerbait. So this is actually a Wilder brand of bait that's got a real thick wire on the front and a gold blade. I'm keeping one of these blade baits or chatterbait, you might call it, in my box. I know these are really good for redfish. I really haven't used it much so far, but you're going to see in my box I'm going to have a lot of stuff that I want to try but haven't gotten to yet. Also going to have some claw type swim baits. These I've also found effectively. This is on a weighted the rigged weedless on a weighted type of jig head. So this has got a spring here tied to the eye or affixed to the eye of the lead head, and then you put the swim bait on there, and then you can put it on weedless. I'm always going to have some other line in my boat, so I'm going to have 17-pound mono and 17-pound fluorocarbon. These are for the leaders, so I always tie a leader of one of these two onto my main line of braid, and the braid could be anywhere from 20 pound to 30 pound. I don't typically go above 30 pound. And I always have this bag with me, and sometimes I wonder how this stuff gets in this bag. It's like somebody puts it in at night. I mean, I got unbelievable amount of stuff in here. It's just, I got swim baits, I got all kinds of different kinds of corks, I got a radio, I got here's something I'd like to try, different kinds. Sometimes I'll have a popping cork already tied up with the lead head on it, ready to go in a little bag. I'll pop it on, whopper, plopper. Here's a weird kind of venom bait with a extra salt and trigger scent, some kind of worm. And of course, I've got these B2 squids in a UV color, which I've been fishing these recently. So I'll be likely to pull this out, put it under a popping cork often. So, K Wiggler, that's like a shrimp tail that I actually last year fished with some. It was pretty effective, just a simple tail like a shrimp tail. Weird stuff like yum shrimp bodies that you're supposed to put scent into. A lot of crazy stuff in here. I just probably never going to use this stuff. I don't even know why it's in here. Flukes. I like these flukes. This is a Zoom brand, and actually I dip the tails in chartreuse, that's why they're green. But this color, which they call a rainbow shad color, I really like this color. I did really well on it last fall as the trailer on the Chalmette rig. Spoons, you know, if you've been watching me lately, I'm trying to understand spoons and how to use them for speckled trout. So I got a bunch of different spoons that I bought. So that's a quick look of what goes with me out on the boat. I'd love to hear your comments, and if you've got any things you want, baits you want to talk about, baits you want to highlight that are different than what I fish, love to hear about them. I sure hope you're able to get out, and maybe I'll see you out there on the water someday.